Good morning, friend. Welcome back to my garden. My name is Kimberly. Let me show you around and see what's going on here in the garden. We've gotten a lot of new plants and seedlings into the ground this week, and so the beds are filling up. They still don't look very full. We're seeing a lot of bare ground, but they are filling up, and that's very encouraging. So here in bed 1, where I've planted seed, I've got some things coming up, some bok choy on the end. I've got some parsley and cilantro coming up. On this end where we had some chicken damage, where the chicken had dug it up, I've replanted with some butter lettuce, and that's not come along yet. Here in bed 2, I've got carrots here on the end, followed by some radishes, some very spotty spinach, so I planted more spinach. And there on the end, I've got black beans. There on the end, I've got some black beans that have come up pretty well. We're going to see how the black beans go. I've also planted black beans out in my field, so we're going to do kind of a side-by-side comparison between planting them here in my garden bed and planting them out there. In bed number 3, I've got some almost ready to harvest red cabbage, and then my pea experiment, which I'm having marginal success with that. I'll definitely need to get a support up here. I'm hoping I can grow some sweet peas here in Ecuador, so time will tell. Bed number 4 has seen a lot of changes. Let me show you. Here in this 4th bed, I've got a lot of onions on the end, and I'm doing a bit of an experiment here. The first onions you see are the ones that I planted in my normal way, where I order the seedlings and then I put them in pots, and then after they've established in the pots, then I plant them. Coming down from there, I received a tip on how to grow bigger onions, and I've been meaning to try it for some time, but I've finally gotten around to it. It involves cutting the root base off of an onion and then replanting that root base. So though I've been meaning to do this for a while, that's not the way I cut up my onions. I don't think of it until after I've cut that root base in half. So finally I did this. Here I have some of the onions that were fresh harvested from another bed of mine, and I cut off the fresh fleshy roots and put them in the ground. Beside that, I have some red onions that I purchased at the store, so those roots had already kind of dehydrated, and so I did plant the root base, but it didn't have the growth of fleshy roots. And then finally, these last onions here were some that I purchased at Starts, and I just put them directly in the ground without putting them in pots first. So it'll be interesting to see over time how this experiment develops and which onions do best, because I really would like to grow more of my own onions and have them fresh and know that they're organic and have them here in my garden to pick when I need them. Coming on from there, I did get my beets planted next to the lettuce and the bok choy that I already had planted. Coming on from there, let's go up to bed number 5. Here in bed 5, I have some marigolds, cilantro, some fennel, and I've put in some new plants. I believe these are I think these are green cabbages. It can be really hard to tell when they're so young, but I think these are the green cabbages. And in this bed, this would be bed number 6, I think this is the cauliflower. So things are filling up and looking better. In bed 7, I have a lot of broccoli. Now these heads of broccoli are not nearly as big as the ones that I harvested a few weeks back, or a few months back, I should say. But they still look beautiful and delicious, and all of these will be harvested probably within the next week. Bed number 8 is full of a new planting of broccoli. Bed 9. I still have these carrots, and I've been so happy to have these in my yard for when I need fresh carrots. I can just come and pick exactly how many I want, and that's been working really great. They're still a little bit on the small side, most of them, but they are definitely working out for me. These are my zucchini plants that are now in full production. We've been definitely using those zucchini. The flowers are looking pretty. I've been collecting a lot of seed from these larkspur and this snapdragon. And I found another snapdragon over here. In addition to the yellow one, I've got this pink snapdragon. And it's not the prettiest plant, but I'm looking forward to collecting some of the seeds from that, so I'll have that variety. Now here on my milkweed plant, wow, look at all the caterpillars. There's so many of them. I see easily 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Just a quick count from this one glance, 12, and I'm sure there are many more that are very small and hiding underneath the leaves. I am hoping still I'll be able to collect some of the seed from this plant, but that might not be possible if the caterpillars eat it all up. They might eat all the flowers off before they can make seed. Here we are now at the compost bin. So earlier this week I worked to empty this side that had been sitting for about 3 months and moving it here into the center. It was a really big job, and I got maybe half of it done, and then I needed to let it sit to dry out a little bit so it wouldn't be so hard to do. And then I got reinforcements help to finish the job. But we've already taken so much compost out of this bin. It was much fuller. We've probably used half of it. The part that was at the bottom over here was already finished compost, and we've been putting that on all of the beds for our new plantings. We usually have enough compost to top our beds between plantings with about 2 inches of compost. That's using our kitchen scraps, our garden waste, and our yard waste. But since we've gotten birds, a lot of that kitchen waste or garden waste, such as broccoli leaves, has been going directly to the chickens and not going into the compost bin. So we'll have to see what that really means for the garden moving forward. So here we are in bed 10. This bed has some broccoli plants that were planted in my absence. They are doing so-so. There's cilantro, etc. Here I've finally taken the spent zucchini plants out of here, all except for the last one where I've got one large zucchini that I'm trying to let mature fully so I can collect the seeds. But this would be bed 11. And I still have this little spinach patch. I'm working on getting another one going before this one is completely done. The bean plants here in bed 12 are starting to grow up this trellis that we've created. A few broccoli over there. This bed has been prepped for planting. I've got my onions that I can harvest here very soon. The 2 ends have been harvested and given a fresh layer of compost, but there's nothing put into them yet. So this would be bed 13. Yeah, bed 13. Okay, in bed 14, I had some celery plants here. It was an experiment to see if the celery did better in the greenhouse or out here in the garden. It clearly did better in the greenhouse. So now that I had new plants I could put in the ground, I pulled that celery out. And so we've got more broccoli here on the end, and then a few zucchini down there. So I have 3 different varieties of zucchini, 2 green varieties and then a yellow variety. So we will have plenty of zucchini. We have neighbors that enjoy zucchini that we like to share with, and also we found that our birds enjoy eating zucchini. And since it's such a prolific plant, we decided to plant a lot of it. So I am now on bed 15. This one has some cabbage, some purple and green cabbage. It still has some cilantro on the other end and some more mature broccoli that's still a ways from harvesting there on the end. And then in this final bed, bed 16, it's all about zucchini. So this is looking very promising. I'm so happy to have some new plants going in the garden instead of just empty spaces or things that were past their prime and ready to be pulled out. It gives me a lot of hope for future harvests, and I love seeing the new growth. So that's what's coming on in the upper garden. Here we are in the lower garden. The sun's bright. And I'm here with my new asparagus bed. This is the extra asparagus bed that we put in so that we could have two going, so that we can alternate which one we're harvesting from. Here's a better view of that asparagus bed. I had transplanted some asparagus plants in here, but I also had planted some seeds, so I'm really happy to see some of the little seedlings have come up. It's been a challenge to keep this wet enough during this dry spell we've had because it's, further away from our water source. The lemons are still going crazy. And this pumpkin is continuing to grow. We actually just have this one pumpkin on this plant and only one pumpkin on the other plant. There were more, but the other ones have shrunk up and died back. So it looks like we'll get one pumpkin from each plant. Here we are in the front yard, and I just wanted to show you this bush. It's absolutely loaded with flowers, and it's interesting how it'll have both white and purple flowers at the same time. Such a beautiful and sweet smelling bush. This area of our front yard is something I really would like to address soon. I'd like to take out these older bushes and put something new in here. Here inside the greenhouse, I've been super happy with this row of celery. Been enjoying a lot of that. And I'm pleased with how these new tomato plants are coming along. So we need to get those some support soon. Start pruning them. I do have a little bit of success going on here with some of my pea plants, but overall the peas have not performed as well as I had hoped. The most exciting development here in the bird yard is that we found that our original mother duck, or adult female duck, she wasn't the mother of those babies, and she made that clear to us. She has started a nest in the far corner of this lot. And when we first discovered it, there were 10 eggs. 2 days later, there were 11 eggs. 2 days later, there were 12 eggs. We've definitely seen her sitting on the nest. We don't know how serious she is about keeping them warm, but time will tell. We would love to get some baby ducklings. We would love for her to raise her own babies. That would just be really a dream come true for us to have that happen. The other thing that's been happening out here of interest is we've been getting a lot of big buzzards coming down. They haven't caused any harm to the birds here, but they are coming down looking for water. And so that's a little alarming when we look out here and there's these 3 or 4 or 5 giant black birds. But yeah, it's interesting that they're visiting us. So that's what's going on this week on our homestead. We're excited about the new possibilities of growth. I hear the mama duck now. She hears my voice and she thinks I'm bringing her food. So sounds like she's coming from off her nest to see me and see what I might be bringing. Let's see if we can find her. There she is. There she is. She wants to know, have I brought her food? She doesn't like to miss out on meal times. Yeah, I didn't bring you anything. Sorry, you came for nothing. Should we go and see your eggs? We've also let our smaller birds out of the nursery. We're allowing them to roam free now, and they're really enjoying that. The original 6 ducklings that we started with, the ones whose mother escaped, have become quite mature and beautiful. 3 of those 6 are really brightly colored with iridescent green feathers, and 3 of them are much more plain looking. And their feathers have gotten so full. It seems that they could fly away now if they wanted to. We're glad that they haven't. I have suspected for a while that we had a chicken, that at least one, that was eating eggs, and that was confirmed. So there was one day I came in here and saw that there were 3 eggs that had been laid that were definitely ready for collection. And I did a few other chores in the chicken yard, and then when I came back, there were only 2, and there was part of a yolk on the shell of those 2. So we definitely have a bird that's been eating some of the eggs. So very soon we expect to receive the wooden eggs that I ordered from Amazon. That should help with that problem, because we don't want the birds to be eating the eggs. We either want to eat them, or if they want to sit on them and raise young, that would be really great too. But otherwise, we want to take the eggs. Here in this one long row in the pumpkin patch, I've planted 3 rows of black beans all throughout. We cleaned up all the weeds and gave this a layer of compost. And we're continuing to get butternut squash out here, and we've got some new beans growing, but for the most part, this is growing a lot of weeds. So that's it for this week's garden tour. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you next week. Bye, friend.